The rain-slicked alley behind the coffee shop reeked of wet asphalt and regret when Finn Harlow first heard the laughter slice through the downpour like a dull knife. Look at that useless granny sitter, shuffling around like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. Probably just wiping asses and folding laundry for some old bat in Bellevue. The voice belonged to Jake, one of the agency drivers. His words slurring just enough from the cheap whiskey they'd all been passing around after shift. Finn froze in the shadows, his heart slamming against his ribs, the styrofoam cup of black coffee burning his palm as he pressed it tighter, willing himself invisible. But Jake wasn't done, his buddies chiming in with guffaws that echoed off the brick walls. Yeah, Finn's the king of Depends and daytime soaps. Bet he cries during the love scenes. Finn's breath caught, a sharp inhale that tasted like betrayal, because those weren't strangers mocking him. They were the guys he shared smoke breaks with, the ones who'd clapped him on the back last week when he nailed a tough night shift. He stepped forward then, not with fire in his eyes but a quiet storm brewing. His voice steady as the fairy horns moaning in the distance. You know, Jake, for a man who spends his days ferrying folks like us around, you'd think you'd have a better grip on irony. The laughter died like a snuffed candle, and in that heavy silence, Finn walked away, the rain swallowing his footsteps, but not the ache that had rooted deep in his chest years ago. Bellevue sprawled out like a half-forgotten dream under the perpetual gray sky of the Pacific Northwest. All manicured lawns and tech money, hiding the cracks where real lives bled through. Finn had landed here 3 years back, fresh off a Greyhound from Astoria, Oregon, with a duffel bag of regrets and a nursing aid certification that felt more like a scarlet letter than a lifeline. At 26, he was supposed to be building something. Maybe that craft brewery he'd sketched out in high school notebooks, or chasing waves down in California like the surfer kids from his beach town. Instead, he was the guy in scrubs, measuring meds and swapping stories with the elderly, their eyes lighting up at the sight of him because, hell, at least he listened. Mrs. Eleanor Voss was his current charge, a sharp-witted widow in her late 70s who'd outlived 2 husbands, a daughter, and what felt like half the 20th century. Her craftsman home on Lake Washington Drive overlooked the water like a sentinel, all polished oak floors and walls lined with faded photos of family gatherings in sun-dappled orchards. Eleanor didn't need much. Just company, really, and someone to remind her that the world outside her bay windows hadn't stopped spinning without her permission. Finn, darling, she'd say in that gravelly voice honed from decades of chain-smoking Chesterfields. You're the only one who doesn't treat me like a relic. The rest of 'em tiptoe around as if I'll shatter if they raise their voice above a whisper. He'd smile then, that crooked half-grin that crinkled the corners of his hazel eyes, and pour her a finger of bourbon neat, because rules be damned when it came to dignity. It was in those quiet afternoons, with jazz crooning low from the old phonograph, Ella Fitzgerald's voice wrapping around them like smoke, that Finn felt least like the punchline Jake and the crew painted him as. Eleanor saw him, really saw him. The kid who'd lost his mom to cancer at 16, bounced between uncles who eyed his soft ways with suspicion, came out at 18 only to get disowned by the family hardware store owner who'd raised him. You're not useless, Finn, she'd told him once, her arthritic hand squeezing his with surprising strength. You're a keeper of stories. That's rarer than gold in this disposable world. But the agency whispers followed him like damp fog. Home health heroes, they called themselves, a Bellevue outfit that shuttled aides like Finn to gigs across the east side suburbs. The drivers and office staff lumped all the soft-skill workers together. Granny sitters, they sneered, the ones who didn't haul equipment or wrangle belligerent patients. Finn took it in stride most days, clocking in at Eleanor's with his thermos of diner coffee and a playlist of indie folk to drown out the radio static. But that alley confrontation lingered, a bruise that throbbed every time he passed Jake in the parking lot, the man's averted gaze burning hotter than any insult. It was a Tuesday in early fall when Wyatt Kane first showed up, rattling the brass knocker on Eleanor's front door like he was announcing a verdict. Finn answered, wiping flour from his hands. He'd been attempting Eleanor's recipe for Marionberry scones, a fool's errand that left the kitchen smelling like ambition gone wrong. Wyatt stood there, all 6 feet of him in a tailored wool coat that screamed downtown Seattle lawyer. His dark blonde hair swept back just so, jaw set like he was bracing for a cross-examination. Mid-30s, maybe, with storm-gray eyes that scanned the entryway before landing on Finn, appraising, then softening just a fraction. You must be the aide, Wyatt said, extending a hand that engulfed Finn's in a grip firm but not crushing. I'm Wyatt, Eleanor's grandson. She mentioned you'd be here. Said something about you being the only one who can make her laugh without trying. Finn nodded, heat creeping up his neck despite himself. Finn Harlow. She's in the sunroom, probably yelling at the crossword. Come on in, watch your step. The cat's got a vendetta against shoelaces. Wyatt's chuckle was low, unexpected, like thunder rolling in from the Olympics. He followed Finn through the house, shedding his coat and revealing a crisp button-down that hugged his broad shoulders. Sleeves rolled to expose forearms corded from weekend rowing on the lake, or maybe just the stress of boardroom battles. Eleanor lit up when she saw him, her face creasing into a grin that knocked years off her. Wyatt, you old fox. Took you long enough. I've been rationing these scones just for you. They settled into the easy rhythm of family visit. Wyatt perched on the wicker settee while Finn hovered, refilling teacups and pretending not to eavesdrop. Wyatt was a partner at Hale & Associates, a boutique firm downtown specializing in tech mergers, the kind of place where deals closed over single malt and skyline views. Married 5 years to Lila, a marketing was at a startup in Pioneer Square. No kids yet, but the pressure was on, Wyatt admitted with a wry twist of his mouth. Eleanor's the only one who calls me on my bullshit, he said, eyes flicking to Finn. The rest of the world just nods along. Finn felt it then, that pull subtle as a current under the surface of the lake outside. Wyatt's gaze lingered a beat too long when Finn leaned in to adjust Eleanor's throw blanket, tracing the line of his jaw, the faint scar above his eyebrow from a bar fight back in Astoria he'd never talk about. It wasn't overt, not with Eleanor watching, but it hummed there, electric and unspoken. By the time Wyatt left, promising to swing by next weekend, Finn was left staring at the door, heart thudding like he'd run a mile in the rain. The weeks blurred into a pattern. Finn's shifts stretching from dawn patrols of Eleanor's meds to evenings of shared silences on the porch. The two of them watching fairies slice the water like silver ghosts. Wyatt's visits became the highlight, excuses layered thin. Forgot my notes last time, or Lila's out of town again. But always ending with him and Finn lingering after Eleanor nodded off. Beers cracked open from the fridge, stories spilling out like confessions. Wyatt talked about the firm, how Marcus Hale, the founding partner, ran it like a cult of charisma. Silver Fox handsome at 50, with a voice like aged bourbon and a reputation for bending rules just enough to win. He's the reason I stayed in Seattle after law school. Wyatt admitted one crisp October night, the air sharp with fallen leaves. Saw potential in me when I was just a green associate fumbling briefs. Now, he's got me closing deals that keep me up for days. Finn listened, nursing his bottle, the condensation slick under his fingers. He shared bits of his own patchwork life. The Oregon coast's relentless tides that had shaped his restless soul. The way caregiving felt like atonement for a youth spent dodging labels. They call me a granny sitter at the agency, he said lightly, testing the waters. Like it's a joke. But Eleanor's more alive than half the suits I see rushing through downtown. Wyatt's eyes darkened. Something fierce flashing there. Fuck him. You're holding this place together. Lila says the same about her team. Everyone's replaceable until they're not. He paused, gaze dropping to the porch rail, fingers drumming a silent rhythm. Marriage is like that too sometimes. You think you're building something solid. Then the foundation shifts. It was the closest he'd come to cracking open the door on his own cracks, and Finn felt the weight of it, the unspoken plea hanging between them. That night, as Wyatt pulled on his jacket, their shoulders brushed, accidental or not, and the air thickened, charged with what-ifs. Finn watched his taillights disappear down the drive, the emptiness settling like fog, wondering if he was reading maps where there were only shadows. November brought storms that battered the sound, mirroring the turbulence brewing in Wyatt's world. Finn noticed the changes in him. The way his laughs came shorter, sharper, like they cost him something. The shadows under his eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. Eleanor picked up on it too, her poker face giving way to pointed questions over breakfast omelets. That boy's carrying the world again, Finn. You see it. He did. And on a rain-lashed Thursday, when Wyatt showed up unannounced, soaked to the bone and reeking of bourbon. Not the good stuff. Finn saw it shatter. Wyatt collapsed onto the living room sofa, head in hands, shoulders heaving with silent sobs that tore at Finn's gut. It's all falling apart, he choked out, voice raw. Lila found texts. From Marcus. God. Finn. I didn't mean for it to. The words hung there, a grenade with the pin pulled. Marcus Hale, the boss, the mentor, the man whose late-night strategy sessions at the office had blurred into hotel rooms and stolen weekends in the San Juans. Wyatt's marriage, built on college sweethearts and shared ambitions, had been crumbling under the weight of a secret Wyatt could no longer bury. He was gay, had always been, but Lila's love had been the convenient cover, the heteronormative dream his conservative family demanded. Finn knelt beside him, hand hovering before resting light on Wyatt's knee, the touch grounding them both. "Hey, breathe. You're not alone in this." He fetched a towel, a fresh shirt from the guest room, Eleanor's late husband's, oversized but clean, and waited as Wyatt stripped off the wet layers, the vulnerability stripping him bare too. Broad chest dusted with dark hair, the tattoo of a compass rose over his ribs that Finn had glimpsed once in a careless moment. They didn't speak of the exposure, not yet, but the air hummed with it, the betrayal of trust, the thrill of truth. As the storm raged outside, they really talked, for the first time. Wyatt spilled it all. The first fumbling kiss with Marcus after a firm retreat in Napa, the guilt that twisted like a knife every time he slipped into Lila's bed, the fear that coming out would torch his career, his family ties, everything he'd clawed for. "I'm a fraud," he whispered, eyes glistening. "Lila deserves better. And you? Christ, Finn, you're right here, seeing me and I." Finn's heart stuttered, the confession teetering on the edge of something deeper. He cupped Wyatt's face, thumb brushing a tear track, their foreheads touching in the lamplight. "You're not a fraud. You're just human. Messy, scared, but real." The kiss came then, tentative at first, Wyatt's lips salty with rain and regret, then deepening into a hunger that had simmered for months. Finn tasted the storm in him, the pent-up longing, and gave back what he could, tenderness laced with fire, hands mapping the planes of Wyatt's back as if committing them to memory. They didn't go further, not with Eleanor asleep down the hall, but the shift was seismic. Wyatt stayed the night, curled on the guest bed while Finn tossed in his cot in the basement, the house creaking like it held their secret close. Morning brought coffee and a fragile peace, Wyatt's hand lingering on Finn's as they washed dishes, the domesticity a balm against the chaos. "I need to tell her," Wyatt said finally, staring out at the lake's choppy surface. "End it clean. But Marcus, he's got leverage. Videos, emails. If it leaks, the firm's done for me." Finn's stomach nodded, the pieces clicking into a darker picture. Marcus wasn't just a lover. He was a predator using Wyatt's vulnerability to climb, to control. "Then we fight it," Finn said, voice steel despite the fear coiling in his chest. "You're not his pawn." But Wyatt shook his head, the weight of it crushing. "You don't get it. This world eats guys like us alive if we step out of line." He left soon after, a ghost of the man who'd arrived, and Finn spent the day with Eleanor, her knowing eyes seeing too much. "Love's a battlefield, kid," she murmured, patting his hand. "But the scars? They're what make you whole." The agency gossip ramped up that week, Jake cornering Finn in the break room with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. "Heard your granny's got a hot grandson dropping by. Careful, sitter. Don't want to cramp his style." Finn bit back the retort, the irony bitter as he clocked out early, driving his beat-up Tacoma through sheets of rain to a dive bar in Capitol Hill, the kind where queer folks nursed pints and swapped war stories. There, under neon buzz and the hum of Arcade Fire on the jukebox, Finn let the dam break. He texted Wyatt, "We need to talk." "Not here." The reply came swift. "My place. Lila's at a conference." Wyatt's apartment in Belltown overlooked the market, all exposed brick and skyline views that felt more like a cage than a castle. He answered the door in sweats, hair tousled, the vulnerability from the other night hardened into resolve. They ordered Thai from the place down the block, pad CEW and spring rolls, the steam curling up like unanswered questions, and ate on the couch, knees brushing, the TV murmuring some cop drama neither watched. It spilled out then, the full rot. Marcus had been grooming Wyatt for years, starting with mentorship, escalating to demands that blurred professional and personal until Wyatt was trapped in a web of NDAs and illicit thrills. "He says it's love," Wyatt confessed, fork stabbing at noodles. "But it's power. Last week, he threatened to tank my promotion if I pulled back. And Lila, she's piecing it together, but if she finds out about him..." Finn set his plate aside, turning to face him fully, the intensity in his hazel eyes pinning Wyatt in place. Then expose him. All of it. Before he destroys you. The words hung heavy, laced with the fear of loss, because somewhere in the quiet hours, Finn had fallen hard irrevocably, for the man unraveling before him. Wyatt's laugh was hollow, edged with panic. Expose the rainmaker of Hale and Associates? I'd be blacklisted from every firm in the state. And you, they'd drag you into it, the granny sitter playing detective. The slur stung, but Finn pushed through, grabbing Wyatt's wrist, the pulse there frantic under his thumb. I'm not playing. This isn't about me. It's about you getting free. He leaned in, the kiss fierce this time, a clash of desperation and desire that left them breathless, shirts rumpled. Wyatt's hands fisting in Finn's hair. They tumbled into it, the couch creaking under them. Wyatt's body solid and yielding, gasps mingling with the rain pattering against the floor-to-ceiling windows. After, tangled in sheets that smelled of Wyatt's cedar cologne, Finn traced the compass tattoo, the Inca roadmap to nowhere. We do this together, he murmured into the dark. I'll help you gather it, proof whatever it takes. Then you choose your path. Wyatt pulled him closer, the embrace a lifeline. And if it all burns? Then we rise from the ashes. Like Eleanor always says, stories outlive the tellers. But dawn brought doubt, Wyatt's phone buzzing with a text from Marcus. We need to talk. My office. Noon. Finn watched him dress, the armor snapping back into place, and felt the first fracture in their fragile alliance. As Wyatt kissed him goodbye, soft, lingering, a promise laced with peril, Finn whispered, be careful. He's not worth your soul. The days stretched taut as bowstrings, Finn juggling shifts at Eleanor's with covert reconnaissance. His nursing aid badge a perfect cover for slipping into Wyatt's world. He started small, tailing Marcus's sleek Audi from the firm to a no-tell-motel in South Lake Union, heart pounding as he snapped photos from his truck, the rain blurring the lens like guilty tears. Wyatt fed him scraps, email chains buried in work folders, voice memos that captured Marcus's velvet threats wrapped in seduction. You're a natural at this, Wyatt joked over late-night calls, his voice strained but warm, the line crackling with static and unspoken I misuse. But Finn heard the toll. The canceled visits to Eleanor, the way Wyatt's texts grew shorter, laced with apologies. Lila had confronted him, Wyatt admitted one night, her eyes red-rimmed over dinner at their place. She thinks it's a phase, a midlife crisis. God. Finn, I hate lying to her. Then stop, Finn urged, pacing his tiny studio in Fremont, the walls closing in with posters of Elliott Bay sunsets he hadn't seen in weeks. Tell her the truth. About everything. Wyatt's silence stretched, broken only by a sigh that echoed Finn's own exhaustion. I will. Soon. Just need to wrap this up first. The wrap-up came crashing down on a Friday, the kind of slate-gray day that Seattle wore like a penance. Finn was at the agency, restocking supplies in the back room, when Jake sauntered in, reeking of fast food and false camaraderie. Heard you're moonlighting, sitter. Poking around the big leagues? Careful word is, some hotshot lawyer's wife is asking questions about her hubby's side gigs. Finn's blood iced, the box of gloves slipping from his fingers to scatter across the floor. Lila, she'd hired a PI or worse, tapped the agency's rumor mill. Mind your own, Jake, he muttered. But the driver just grinned, teeth yellowed from too many smokes. Can't. World's small. And yours? About to get a whole lot smaller. He bolted then, tires squealing as he raced to Eleanor's, the house a sanctuary that felt besieged. Eleanor was napping, her snores a gentle rattle through the baby monitor, so Finn commandeered her office. Dusty with law books from her husband's era, and fired up the ancient desktop, fingers flying over keys to compile the dossier. Timestamps, locations, the damning audio of Marcus's voice purring. You're mine, Wyatt. Don't make me remind you. By evening, Wyatt arrived, face ashen, Lila's ultimatum burning in his pocket. Divorce papers unless he came clean by midnight. She knows about the affair, he said, collapsing into the desk chair, Finn at his side like a shadow. Not who, but enough. And Marcus, he called a meeting, threatened to leak it all. Twist it like I'm the one harassing him. Finn's jaw clenched, the protector in him surging. No, we leak first. To her. To the firm. Let the truth be the weapon. Wyatt's eyes searched his, stormy with terror and a flicker of awe. You'd do that? For me? For us? Finn corrected, the word slipping out like a vow. His hand finding Wyatt's, interlacing fingers in a grip that said everything words couldn't. They hit send together. An anonymous email to Lila, CC'd to the firm's HR. Attachments unfolding like a house of cards. The motel keys, the whispered demands, Marcus's empire of control laid bare. The fallout was swift, a tempest that ripped through their lives like the gale-force winds howling off the Cascades. Lila's call came first, her voice a blade over speakerphone. Wyatt? What the hell is this? Sobs followed. Accusations. The raw unraveling of 5 years stitched with illusions. Wyatt held Finn's gaze through it, tears carving tracks down his face. But his voice steady. I'm sorry, Lee. I love you as a friend, always. But I'm gay. And he's been using me. This ends now. Marcus's response was venom. A barrage of voicemails, then a confrontation at the firm, Wyatt storming out with security in tow, his resignation letter emailed before the elevator dinged. The agency caught wind next. Jake's smug face in the parking lot as Finn arrived for his shift, sirens wailing in the distance like omens. Cops are involved, sitter. Boss man's pressing charges. Blackmail, they say. Finn's world tilted, the mockery he'd endured morphing into malice. He exposed the truth to save Wyatt, but now it boomeranged, painting him as the villain in a narrative spun by power. Eleanor woke to the chaos, her frail form bolstering as she wheeled into the fray, phone in hand. I've got friends in low places, Finn, and high ones too. Sit tight. She called in favors, old cronies from the Bar Association, a reporter buddy at the Seattle Times who owed her for a scoop decades back. By nightfall, the story broke. Tech law titan accused of coercing associate in gay affair scandal. Marcus's fortress crumbled, board members scattering like rats. His threats exposed as the desperate flailings of a man cornered. Wyatt found Finn on the porch that night, the rain a soft curtain now, the lake mirroring stars peeking through clouds. It's over, he said, voice hoarse from interviews and tears. He's done. And Lila, she signed the papers this morning. Clean break. Finn stood, the weight of the week sloughing off like mud, pulling Wyatt into an embrace that trembled with relief. You did it. We did. But Wyatt pulled back, eyes fierce with something deeper. No, you did. They called you useless, Finn, a granny sitter, a nobody. But you saw me when no one else could. Exposed the lies, not for glory, but because you cared. His lips found Finn's, the kiss a seal on survival, slow and sure, tasting of second chances. In the weeks that followed, the storm cleared to fitful sun. Seattle's skies a metaphor for their mending. Wyatt moved into a sublet in Queen and, closer to Eleanor's, his days filled with freelance consults and therapy sessions that peeled back layers of shame. Finn kept his shifts, the agency grudgingly reinstating him after the headlines turned public opinion. Suddenly, the granny sitter was a hero, Jake's apologies as oily as his hair. Eleanor thrived on the drama, her stories now laced with pride. My Finn, the one who topples giants. And in quiet evenings, Wyatt and Finn built something real. Hikes in Discovery Park, where ferns whispered secrets. Dinners of takeout chowder on mismatched plates. Nights where bodies intertwined without the shadow of secrets. Wyatt's compass tattoo a guide under Finn's fingertips. It wasn't perfect. Wyatt's family sent curt emails, distanced their weapon of choice. Lila's healing came in waves, their divorce amicable but scarred. Finn still fielded sidelong glances at the agency, the label lingering like a ghost. But in each other's arms, under the vast indifference of the sound, they found freedom, not the loud kind, but the quiet certainty of being seen. One spring afternoon, as cherry blossoms dusted the streets like confetti, Wyatt knelt by the lake, a simple silver band in his palm. No diamonds, just promise. Marry me, Finn. Not to hide, but to claim. You, me, this messy life. Finn's yes was a laugh through tears, pulling Wyatt up into the water's edge, waves lapping at their ankles like applause. They weren't saviors or survivors in the epic sense. Just two men who'd chosen compassion over cages, identity over illusion. In a world quick to label and discard, They'd rewritten the story, one exposed truth at a time. And as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of fire and forgiveness, Finn knew. This was the real hook, the one that caught and held forever.